So, hello everybody. I'm really excited to be chatting with you this evening. And tonight we're going to be speaking about a program which I think is really valuable to anybody who's wanting to learn to code, whether you are a primary school child, whether you're a high school person, or whether you're an adult who's wanting to learn to code and just beginning to explore the idea. The product we're going to look at this evening is called Python in Pieces. And for me, the really interesting thing about this product is that you work in block coding, but you can see the code at the same time in Python, or you can work in the Python and see the reaction in block. And so it's just an amazing space to be working in. So I'm really excited to be chatting about this product. We've had a bit of change in who's going to be with us. So Tim had a bit of an incident. His rabbit actually ate his fiber. So his cable was not able to be replaced before the chat. So I'm joined tonight by Neil. So hello, Neil. Nice to have you here.
Hello, Karen. Nice to have you too. Well, nice to be here.
Could you tell us a bit about Python in Pieces and where it came from?
Sure. Python in Pieces is made by us at 2Simple Software, and it came from the need for children to transition from the type of coding that they're learning in primary school with block-based programs like Purple Mash's 2Code into something that they can actually use in the real world. So we found that coding education kind of stops at the end of primary school and really doesn't continue until kids decide to maybe take a subject like IT in grade 10. So Python in Pieces is the bridge in that gap to transition them from, as I said, what they've been doing in primary school, and then also to ready them a little bit more for the actual workforce by teaching them actual Python code.
Oh, okay, that's really incredible.
Yeah.
So does it belong to another group or is it a standalone product? I know it's a 2Simple product, but is it completely standalone?
It is standalone, so it is separate from our flagship product, which is Purple Mash, which is more designed for pre-primary and primary school children. Whereas Purple Mash is suitable for children towards the end of primary school as well as early high school.
And so are you going to share with us and actually let us see what it looks like? Do you want
Yes,
to? Um,
absolutely. Sure. Let me
okay.
share my screen. I'm just finding the right window.
Tell me when you're ready for me to put it up.
I'm ready.
Cool.
Great. So what we're looking at is the home screen of Python in Pieces. And this is a very focused platform in that it really just looks at Python coding. Whereas if you had to look at another platform of ours like Purple Mash, it is much more sort of all over the place in that it focuses on all sorts of aspects, not just coding. Now, Python in Pieces is a really simple platform to use and to navigate. And I think that's what teachers and learners need when embarking on this sort of mission, whether that be transitioning from the coding that you're learning in primary school into Python, obviously, but also for teachers to use a platform that children have never sort of been introduced to, with coding on in their lives. So Python in Pieces works really well in that regard, and the simplicity of the platform um, really is so great. And so to explain to you how the platform works
Yeah.
is we have a total of 18 lessons that are all self-guided. And those 18 lessons are split over three levels, level 1, 2, and 3. And within these lessons, we find various different stages. So Python in Pieces introduces children to coding or students to coding really just by getting them to enter a line of text and then having that output in the output panel, and progressively moves them towards a point where by the end of level 3 they're able to create all sorts of things like binary calculators and linear search programs that's good for data interrogation and things like that, as
That's
well as
really
everything in between.
That's really great. Do you want to show us what it looks like inside the program? So perhaps something from level 1 for somebody who hasn't seen any of the program before?
Absolutely. So let's go to level 1, and you'll see that firstly, as teachers, we've got all sorts of lovely settings over here that lets us set this as a task for our learners, so we don't, really just have to rely on them to find what we want them to do, as well as being able to reset your own progress, as well as a progress for your entire class if you want them to do the whole lesson over again, as a form of repetition for reinforcement. But basically, I'm in
Just
lesson 1.
so just before that, there was a video. So are there lots of videos in Python and pieces?
Yes, that is the main feature of the program, is that this can be hosted by teachers who have never taught coding in their lives before or don't have prior experience of the specialized subject. And so the great thing about Python in Pieces is that every single stage and every lesson has extensive videos for you to watch that explain to you not just how to complete the challenge, but what you're actually learning and how this fits into the real world. So in our lesson over here, in lesson 1, we're learning all about text output. It says in
So
this lesson we will learn,
can I just stop you a minute? Somebody's saying
yeah,
the focus is out. Could you can you see it clearly? I see it. No, the focus of the screen.
okay. It looks perfectly fine for me.
Okay, I see what he sees. I also see it as I'm just going to take you out and put you back in and see if that makes a difference.
Okay, cool.
Not really. Okay,
I
Mario.
can
Thanks, Mario, for the comment. I'm not sure how we fix it. So if you've got a tip, that would be great. It's
let me
okay. Do you
try
want to
and
carry on, Neil?
yeah, let me try and make my screen bigger. So let me go full screen, see if that works a little bit better.
Oh, that is a little bit better. Yes, it's not much,
Cool.
but it is better. Thanks.
Okay, great. So in lesson 1, we learn all about, at least we start to learn about a text output, or what a string is in Python, and that we would make use of inside the program what we call a print block to print strings and numbers. And then we'll eventually learn how to add strings and multiply strings by a number, and how to format text with line breaks. So this is an outline of what we'll be learning in this lesson, with the titles of all of our stages, and then a 50-second video to kind of launch us into the actual lesson itself. And
Mm-hmm.
once we've looked at this video, we can then move on to stage 1. And stage 1 comes with a 5-minute long video which explains to us that in Python, a string is a sequence of letters which we can use to represent text. And so we would use the print function to print strings to the screen. And here we've been given an outlay of our tasks, as well as a button to look at a hint. So the hint is kind of a very strong suggestion as to what to do and how to pass the challenge. And as teachers, you will be able to see if your learners have used hints or not. Now, I'm going to actually reset this. Let me just go out and back in again, because I want to start this from scratch. You'll see that I've already done a lot of the challenges in here. So I've reset this level for myself for this lesson. So I'm going to launch it again. Great, and now we can start. So in lesson 1, our tasks are to change the print block to output hello world instead of ABC. And this is the
So
kind of, mm,
just in terms of for every lesson, are there these kinds of tasks? So something that the child knows what they're going to be doing. So sort of benchmarking themselves against this criteria.
yes. Yeah, it always starts with something that's quite attainable, and then progresses in complexity as they move along the different stages. And Python in Pieces is also progressive in that everything they've been learning in previous lessons, they will lean upon that information, or at least those skills, to complete the rest of the challenges as they go. So it is quite progressive, and it's a good idea to start with level 1 and then with lesson 1.
Okay.
Something I mentioned earlier as well is that this is a great program for high school students, or at least their teachers, to introduce this to their students who haven't had prior experience of coding in primary school, which obviously we would find quite a bit of. Great. So looking at our tasks, we've got print hello world. And then our second task is to check that our output panel actually shows what we've put in. So this is quite an important step in that it's starting already to teach us that as coders, we need to check our work constantly. So it's starting to get us into that habit. Now, this is what the platform looks like. Here on the left-hand side, we've got blocks to move around, and we can come and add blocks and things like that, which we will do in subsequent stages. But as for this challenge, it asks us to output the word hello world as opposed to this ABC. Now, how this is a great program to transition children from the block-based coding that they're used to in primary school, or that they might have done in programs like to code on Purple Mash, is you've got your blocks here on the side, and what we're looking at the moment is a split view. So we've got blocks on the left, and then we've got the actual Python code, or the syntax here on the right-hand side. And so if I want to code my challenge just by using the blocks, then I can, or I can do this entire challenge by changing the text on the right-hand side. And if I really want to just look at the block view, or just look at the text view, perhaps um, as we do this lesson for a second time around, as a slightly more challenging kind of lesson, then we can do that. So here in my split view, I can now look at both, and whatever I change on the left will change on the right, and whatever I change on the right will change to the left. So this is very unique to Python in pieces. I'm not sure of any other Python coding tutorial platform that does this. So as you see, I'm typing here hello world. On the right-hand side, it changes my print block over there. Okay, so it's a very easy challenge to face when starting with this program. And now I'm going to run it. It will say, if you think you've completed if you've completed everything, click here to assess your work. Now we can see over here down in our output panel that it shows hello world. That was the aim of this entire objective. So we're now going to assess our work. And it says sometimes you need to assess your own performance by confirming the code that you've written is working as you expected, and if it is, tick on the box. So this is
and
where that
and for me
self-assessment.
that's just so really valuable, that you're empowering the child to actually take ownership of their learning. I think that's
Absolutely,
really great, instead of the
absolutely.
teacher having to say they've got to look, they've got to take responsibility and see. And I think that's what makes this as a self-learning platform really, really beneficial.
Yes, absolutely. I know we keep saying late primary school and early high school and things like that, but this is also a wonderful platform for adults who have never learned how to code before. A great introduction into coding. What's also nice about this is that it teaches you Python. Python itself is a very, very popular coding language with thousands of open source libraries and things like that for you to be able to do pretty much anything. And I think it's now the second most used coding language in the world behind JavaScript.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah, it really is a wonderful platform for adults looking to empower themselves. Okay, now in our next challenge, it says, let's actually have a look at what our next challenge was. There's our I button over there, so we can look at our instruction again. It says practice by printing some more text about yourself. And remember that the strings need to be surrounded by quotation marks. So it's now starting to teach you elements of the actual syntax or the language itself. And these are important things to remember when you're writing in any coding language, really, is to remember the rules of the language, which we refer to as syntax. So I have a couple of options now. If I want to, again, do this with the blocks, then I can by taking the print block and adding it to that puzzle piece. And then as per my instruction, I have to print a block that says my name is, another one that says I live in, and a third one that says I enjoy. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to change it here on the left-hand side, and I'm going to say my name is Neil. Then on the right-hand side, to mix it up a bit, we're going to go print, open bracket, and I want you to notice that if my code is not yet correct, then it won't generate the blocks here on the left-hand side. which is a very quick way of kind of showing that what I've done here on the right hand side isn't correct yet. So my name is Neil. I live in Johannesburg, Johannesburg, in quotation mark, close bracket, and you'll see that it's now able to generate my blocks here on the left hand side. And finally, print quotation mark, I enjoy playing the guitar.
So that's really cool that you can work in both spaces, and if you get it right or wrong in both spaces, it flags it. Perhaps do something really wrong and show us how it flags it within the system.
Well, that what we just saw is how is how it's flagged, and you'll see that now in subsequent stages. I'm going to run this quickly and finish the stage quickly. So we assess ourselves, obviously, so stage complete. But what you're asking now is actually covered in the next stages, which is what we call debugging stages. So
Yeah.
it will deliberately give you broken code and say, according to what you've just learned, you need to fix what is wrong. So in our challenge here, or our task, it says fix the code that prints welcome to Python in pieces. So when I open this, according to what we've just learned, can you tell me, Karen, what is wrong with my code and how do I fix it?
Oh, I don't know. So you tell me. So you haven't got inverted commas.
No?
I
Oh,
can't.
yes, that's the word. That's the word. Inverted
Yeah,
commas or quotation marks. So once I
yeah.
put those in over there, then it will
Uh,
allow me to
why was the
actually
in
run.
red though? Do you know, Neil? So why was the word in the middle of Python in pieces red? Do you know?
Good question. I think that's because, that's a different function itself. It's part
Okay,
of a
okay.
different part of code. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, makes sense.
Okay.
So it's
So
not seeing it as a string, it's seeing it as an instruction that it's trying to action. Okay,
that's
that
right, yeah.
makes sense.
So we go in and put our quotation marks in, and now we're going to run this. It's going to print to our output panel, and we're going to assess and then move on to the next stage. Now, in our next stage, we learn about printing or combining strings with a print all function. And so it progressively moves you on bit by bit until eventually you complete the stage and you then, or at least this lesson, and you're able then to move on to the next lesson.
So if a child doesn't finish all 10 stages in 1 hour, can they come back and carry on the next day? So can you save even if you're halfway through one of these activities? Because there are lots of little points that you're learning along the way.
Absolutely. So it remembers your progress.
Okay.
And if I go and exit this and log out of Python in pieces and switch off my computer and come back the next day and come back to lesson one, then I just, well, children don't have the option to launch it. So they would just open it up. And as you can see, it takes off right from where I left. And I can then
Mario's got
open
a
this up.
question.
Mm,
He's saying, how do you handle a line return in and the line if it's fx is xyz then? So the question's over 2 lines. How do you handle a line return in if x is? So how do you handle that kind of complex? Would this be in this level of lessons, or would you
yes.
cover these types of things in sort of the levels beyond this?
I think that is within this lesson. If not, then within one of the lessons that starts this. And you actually bring me to a very good point. So I'm gonna exit this lesson and to give teachers a glimpse of firstly what they would be finding in subsequent lessons and stages and things like that, as well as to help their children with anything that they're stuck with. We have a solutions page, and the solutions page is just in PDF. And this will then
Oh,
show
okay.
you firstly what we'll be learning in each of our lessons, so our different stage titles and things like that. And then it will start with lesson one and give you the actual solution itself. So you can
Okay.
kind of look ahead to see what these lessons will entail. This is
Okay.
obviously for teachers' eyes only. Now, coming back, there is also a document that we have that outlines all our lesson content and progression. So
Ah,
over here in our user guides, lesson content and progression, this shows you what you'll be learning in subsequent lessons, like so. So in lesson 1, we're learning all about text output. These are the names of our stages once again. We have joining strings, multiplying by a number. So these are the stages that we'll be covering in the rest of the lesson, as well as the code that we'll be learning itself,
yes.
as well as things like constructs, algorithmic thinking, and levels of abstraction. And this is available all the way through to level 2 and to level 3.
Can you, now that you're talking about things teachers can see, can you show us the back end in terms of what the teacher can see in terms of how students are progressing and going across the platform?
Certainly. So teachers can track how their students are progressing over Python in pieces over here in our data dashboard. This is quite simple to use. You just go into level 1 and you click on one of the lessons. And we have a filter right at the very top over here, which is now filtering all work that was done from the beginning of the year. So I'm going to backdate this a bit, maybe to, just choose that date over there. And
And
here
would
we,
it relate to your class? So if you're doing this in terms of um, just your children that you're looking at, you wouldn't be able to see all the teachers' things.
no, but you can filter down to your, so at the moment it's showing for all children across the entire school. And I can now draw this down to just certain individuals or certain class children if I want to. But yeah, you can't see the progression of any teachers, unfortunately. But you
No,
can
I
see
didn't
how.
mean that. I mean, one teacher only has access to her class. She can't see all the classes. So only the, so it's not as if you're going back, it's only your children that you
Oh,
then are looking at. It's simple to see, is what I'm asking.
yes, it's determined by who you're assigned to over here in our user management area. So this is something that the admin or the school's admin or computer teacher sets up. If you've got multiple teachers using Python in pieces, then you would go over here to your staff section and then specify which classes each of your staff members see the activity for.
Okay,
Um,
great.
yeah,
So I'm just looking. Ike said it's an interesting combination and looks really simple to handle the platform as a whole. So yes, I agree with you. It is really simple, and I really do like the look that you can see both the block coding and the Python coding. And then Cheryl says the platform is so user friendly. I agree, it is.
absolutely.
So Neil will show us a bit more about the teacher back end now, but it really is um, user friendly, both from a teacher point of view and from the kids' point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a teacher backend point of view, really on Python in pieces, as it is such a focused tutorial kind of platform on one specific task, really all teachers would need to know is how to manage their users in terms of loading classes, loading new students, things like that, which is quite straightforward. We do that on teachers' behalf, just by the way, at 2Simple Software. At 2Simple, we load children on your behalf. We receive your class list. We create profiles and things for you, so you don't have to do a lot of the manual kind of admin labor that normally comes with a program like this. We do take on that. I want to show
So
you a couple of.
just before you go into showing, so you said load a class, but you can also load groups or individual children, can't you? So
Yes, you can.
it's not just big groups.
No, it's not just big groups. As a new child comes throughout the year, you just pop over here to the student management area and add a new student. It's pretty
Great.
straightforward.
Okay,
There's a,
great,
a nice there's a nice big add button over there.
great. So
Cool.
you were going to show us.
Yeah, so I want to show you a couple of things. Firstly, focusing on this microbit and free code project section here on the left-hand side, which allows you to create a brand new project according to everything that you've learned in Python in pieces. So traditionally, I would say a good idea is to first go through each of your your lessons in your levels. So this might take maybe a month, maybe 2 months, maybe the entire year, depending on your pace or the pace that you're working at with your students. But
Mhm.
once you've learned all of the different aspects and principles of coding and things like that, you can come over here to our free code project area and basically create your own stuff. So it then gives you all the functionality in block view, where we can come and sort of put our puzzle pieces together, as well as giving you the functionality to come and type things out, obviously. And again, whatever happens on the left will happen on the right, and vice versa. You see, as I start to type out, a print string, for example,
So
then it
then,
will just automatically generate the block for me on the
so
left.
in the free code section, all the different coding options are there. It's not like where, as they're going through the program, the different components are added. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, absolutely. So this is the all unlocked kind of mode. Now, besides just being able to put in your blocks and your code and things like that, you can actually create things in our design mode by adding buttons, text, objects, and backgrounds and things like that for you to create an actual program.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
the great thing about this as well is that we've got some showcase games and programs to show you, just to kind of allude to what you are able to do over here. And here we have a selection of things that have been submitted by our staff members, as well as teachers and students from all around the world. And you can kind of browse through all of this and have a look. What I want to focus on is my favorite of these games, or this showcase stuff, is the Space Invaders. So this is just a quick glimpse of something that you could create on Python in pieces, where we can see our blocks sort of here on the left hand side, as well as what our code would look like here on the right. Our design, where we've added backgrounds, sprites, objects, text, things like that. And so when I run this program, instructions are to shoot the spacemen, the
Like the old
UFOs,
Space Invaders. That's so
like the
cool.
old Space Invaders. Exactly. What's also great about this is that learners can adapt this or change any of this if they want to come and change the backgrounds, or anything like that. They can play around with this. That this could be a unicorn shooting a fireball out of its horn, or something like that, towards the evil bears running towards them. I don't know, something like
Yeah,
that. You can
that's
come and
very
change all of
cool.
this. Yeah.
So, so in the showcase space that you just pulled this from,
Yeah.
I somehow remember that it's a space where anybody can put games on, and there were stars underneath it, so people can go in and play other people's games and rate them. Does that
Yes.
still exist?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think
So
that's just so cool in that you can then say to children, go and create your own games. And in this closed community, people can go in and rate the games and see what you created and give comments and feedback. So really applying the technology in terms of not just learning it and not being able to put it into context, but actually encouraging children to be creative and come up with solutions. So really using the code, which is really wonderful.
yeah, so grateful for things like peer review and things like that. Now, anything created in free code can be saved and made available over here in our document section, which is really just like our online storage, kind of like my documents on your computer. And so projects that are placed into shared class folders, for instance, can be viewed by all learners in that class.
Oh,
And then they
nice.
can sort of look at each other's work as reference, or something like that. This space also allows teachers to come and add their own projects, of course. So a nice idea is to create a coding project that's already buggy, and then have your kids fix your
Mm,
bugged code. So you're creating your own debugging challenges. And within here, you can also add external documents in the form of really anything. If you'd like to add things like PDFs or MP4 videos, or uh, even Excel spreadsheets, all sorts of things like that, then you can come and add that into these different folders. So Python pieces can also double up to an extent as online storage for documents around Python coding.
That's very cool.
Okay, now something that I also want to talk about is our Microbit Simulator. And so you can start a brand new Microbit project over here by let's quickly run this. You'll see that we've got an actual microbit here, well, simulated here on the left-hand side, so that whatever you code, for instance, when you press the A button and you click on this button, will be as though you're holding an actual microbit. And so for this, we've also got plenty of programs in our showcase area that you can have a look at. And so basically a microbit, for those that don't know, is a sort of like a little chipset or a board that includes all sorts of online sensors like an accelerometer, a thermometer, and a compass, as well as an LED panel over here for you to display information that scrolls across. And to this, you can also attach all sorts of extra things like motors and additional sensors and timers and things like that. So this is very powerful. And the great thing about this being simulated on Python in pieces means that you don't, at least when you're experimenting with this, you don't have to buy the actual microbit itself in order to learn that kind of robotics coding.
But if you have coded on the microbits, can you download the code and put it onto a microbit?
Yes, absolutely. That is the overall the sort of end goal of Python in pieces and the microbit is for you to transfer whatever you've created on Python in pieces to an actual microbit.
Oh, okay, that's really
Yeah.
great.
Great. So I just did want to highlight that. That is a wonderful feature, especially for those schools looking to, or teachers looking to introduce robotics, but might not have the resources to be able to buy plenty of microbits or even one microbit. We've got this lovely simulator to at least get you started here in
It's
Python
really
in
great.
pieces.
So, is there anything else that you think we really need to share with people in terms of Python in pieces? I mean, it's such a simple tool, so easy to use. The children can carry on their own basically because of the video. So we're teaching them to learn through auditory and visual simulation. They're creating their own code. They can check it. As a teacher, you
Yes,
can go in at the back and easily see how far the kids are. You can then even go into the microcontrollers, the little microbits, and get the children even to begin coding from that point of view. Is there something else you
absolutely.
think we should be aware of?
No, I don't think so. And I really do think that's the beauty of this platform is that it's so focused that you don't have to worry about having to learn 100,000 different things to be able to use it effectively in your class.
Oh, okay. So, how would you like to end off the chat? What would you like to leave with people in terms of Python in pieces?
I would say that teaching your learners how to code is an absolutely invaluable skill that they will then be able to transfer over into the real world one day. And as I'm sure you guys have heard, coding is something that will be on par with literacy one day and has already infiltrated thousands of industries. And so teaching learners how to code will set them up to be more competitive in the workforce one day and actually um, uh, be able to do all sorts of things that we can't even imagine right now.
So thanks so much, Neil, this evening for sharing. To all of you for your questions and comments, that's been really great. I'm going to end the session, but have a look at Python in pieces. If you want more information, please send an email to info@2simple.co.za, and you could ask for a trial period to have a look and just ask any questions. But thanks so
That's right.
much, Neil. Bye, everyone.
Cool. Cheers, everyone. Thank you so much, Karen.
Bye.
Bye.